You ready to start there, Mr. Chairman?
What gave you that idea? Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the Urban Affairs Committee to order at 5:32. We actually have 3 items on the agenda, although 2 are related. So we're going to take up the rezoning of the land off 269 Mechanic Street. It's the first is order number 19-100-7738. The second is order 19-100-7738C. So what we have listed as number 2 on our agenda is Mike Norris here? No? Okay.
I saw him, I thought.
Okay. Would you mind? Thanks, Bob. Item number 2 is superseded by item number 3. So a motion would be in order to just table item number 2.
Motion to table.
Okay, a motion is made and seconded to table item number 2. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 5. Okay. Good evening. So, Mike, we expect this to be very brief tonight. We just tabled the old change, and now we have the new change, which is essentially the exact same as the previous, only it adds that little tiny sliver of land that was contiguous to the bike trail and on which their property sits. And so you needed to do that. You know, there's a couple ways we could have done it, but just by rezoning that, which the city is perfectly happy with, then you can do what you need to do.
All right, I think Joe's kind of explained.
Use the microphone.
I'm sorry. I think Joe kind of explained to you everything. The building sits a little bit over the property line onto what is the rail trail. And what we've done is asked to rezone that small strip of land back there to go along with the building, so the whole thing will then be in the limited in the RB zone. And I did discuss this with City Council, and the city solicitor suggested that this was the best way to do it.
And the city planner's on board with it as well, so I spoke with him. Anybody have any questions? Motion would be in order.
Motion to approve.
A motion is made and seconded to approve. Is there any? Oh, I'm sorry, President Clancy.
Thank you.
I sometimes can't see you over there.
I know I'm leaving, but,
So on I.
okay. Kind of an interesting thing is that we have another proposal for a multi-unit apartment complex right around the corner from that, right on the rail trail. And there was a discussion in our site plan review group about a floral lining that would go down the rail trail. So in other words, it'd almost be like a floral district for the for that area that would be right adjacent to it. I don't know if Mr. Flores Fontes would be interested in subscribing to that, so that there would be like a floral arrangement going down by the building. I'm just curious.
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, the plan was to clean up that whole area behind the building where the rail trail is. And I think there's a drainage issue there that he needs to clean up and some other things. So aesthetically, for what he's going to do there, he's going to want to clean that whole area up there. He's going to want to clean up that whole area.
Yeah.
And if I could remind you, Mr. President, so we're going to, if the council so deems, we're going to change the zoning, then they have to come back to the council next year, and when you do your special permit, you can factor that in and say, okay, this is kind of our new idea for the rail trail, and they can go ahead and add it at that time.
It's a selling point.
I would think so. I would think so.
Perennials.
You folks remember that next year.
I'll be prepared.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is approved 5-0. Okay, you're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you for taking us.
You're very welcome. Do you want to say anything tonight, or do you want to?
Yes, you want to bring it up first, or?
Yeah, so now we're going to move on to order number 19-100, 7716A. Communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield on behalf of Councilor Delano regarding proposed zoning amendment relative to creating the Route 20 East zoning district, order number 19-100, 7716. And just so you know, I put this forward, but this was an MEDC creation that's been worked on since 2012. So, Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much. Considering the latest proposal includes the property that I live in, I'm going to need to recuse myself. So I appreciate Mr. Delano bringing this up at the end of the meeting so I can leave early. Thank you, sir.
Councilor, have a good night. We have Mark Rassicott here with us tonight. If you'd like to come up, Mark. I don't know, Meredith, were you going to come up? Or if you like, yeah, come on up. So, folks, we've already had a meeting on this in the City Council Urban Affairs Committee. We did some informal discussions, at which time I thought we semi-agreed that we'd go to Wilson Street, but we left open the possibility to go to Phelps. So we should decide tonight if we want to keep it at Wilson Street, which was back in 2012, 13, 14, 15, that was the original idea, in 16 and 17. But it's completely up to you. The max we can go is Phelps, because that's all that was advertised. But it seems like there's a general feeling to maybe pull it back to Wilson Street this iteration. Then next year, they can go to the next segment, and then, on and on. So, do we want to discuss that first? Any, Councilor Landers?
Brief discussion, Mr. Chairman. I would like it to go further west, but I'm not going to discuss that tonight. I guess my gut feeling is if we did only bring it to Wilson Street, down the line, whether that's 1 year from now or 5 years from now, it would have a better chance if the council saw that it would be advantageous to go further west. I mean, to me, the logical point would be Palmetto Square where the state highway ends, because I feel the same way about the construction, but I'm not going to get my way on that. So the only way I would really support Wilson Street, stop it there, do our thing, and then maybe future council would extend it. They might see fit that, Palmetto Square wouldn't be a bad place, where the state highway ends.
I think, Councilor, I totally understand what you're saying. I think we'll have a great blueprint in place. And then the next year, I don't see why you wouldn't take it up the very next year.
It could very well work. So
And
that
work
being
with
the
MEDC
case,
and-
I'm somewhat comfortable with Wilson Street. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels.
Okay, so Wilson Street. Councilor Roby.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if anybody on the voting committee. I will just state again, I would prefer to shorten it and then see how that works and then go forward. I'm still uncomfortable doing anything definite because the planning board hasn't weighed in yet, and I guess I would look for their opinion.
So we usually make our decisions and then take in feedback from the planning board. We don't wait for us to deliberate. We've never done that.
Well, I think on this one, that may be not the best way to go.
Because?
Because I think
We didn't do that with the downtown. We didn't do that with the neighborhood business district. We did our work here and then took in the feedback from the planning board. So, Councilor Ossing.
So I just think, look, the point Councilor Roby's trying to make is, for this particular one, since it is a pretty good, I'll just go to the neighborhood business district. We waited to get the input from the planning board before we actually made a decision, right? So I'm good with moving forward. I just want to say, if the planning board has something, that we really should consider, I would hope that the urban affairs would want to reconsider whatever vote they take tonight. That's all.
Yeah, well, we're not going to vote tonight.
Okay, all right.
I have no intention of voting tonight, unless there's some great desire on the council. That wasn't my intention.
Okay.
The planning board, in their wisdom, decided not to schedule the public hearing instead of last week, instead of next week, on December 2nd. That leaves us one more meeting, so they have put us in a terrible position, and I don't understand why they did that. They could have had the same night we had ours, but they chose not to. So they're putting us in an awkward position without, I don't know, that's what they did.
Well, I mean, if I could, Mr. Chairman, you would have the availability to carried over, if the council approves, to the next session, if we can't make a decision.
Yeah, I don't think,
I know.
that would
I
not be my
understand.
desire. We're going to have a
Okay.
whole different crew of people
Yep.
with whole different attitudes. I would not like to do that, seeing we've been working on this since 2012.
So then just playing that out then, planning board meets December 2nd. I would encourage us as councils that are interested to attend that planning board public hearing, evaluate any input or thoughts that they have, encourage them that, we're looking to make a decision. They'd have to get us any written comments, chop, or we would hear it depending on how long it lasts. We may
And-
not hear it.
And what bothers me is that now there's going to be an appearance in some people's mind that we're rushing this.
Yeah.
We've been working on this since 2012.
Yep.
Meeting after meeting, public meetings, the MEDC, over and over and over, experts. We spent probably $70,000 or $80,000 over the years.
Yeah, no,
And it's-
if I could, there's a risk, because it has to go through the 4 stages, and if someone objects on the last meeting
Oh,
of
there's
the
no
council.
question. There's
that
no
would-
question, and the thing we could do, if there was an agreement, is, but it's risky too, is we could have a committee meeting after, not report out on December 12th, take in what the planning board says, then we'd have to take it in under suspension, but then sure enough, somebody uninformed is gonna get up and say, you're trying to rush it through. It's like, well, the council itself has been working on this already for a couple months. So, I'm open to advice. Councilor Roby?
Maybe not advice, just my own personal opinion. I do think there would be a sense that we're rushing it through, and yes, this has been worked on for a very long time, but not to the depth that it's been worked on within the past 2 months. Now we have the real meat of a proposal, and I don't see any reason to have to rush it through.
Well,
There's a lot
we have actually, to correct you, had the meat of the
discuss.
proposal for many, many months, and we've had public meetings and then changed the proposal to reflect the input that we've gotten from a number of people that were at these meetings. I realize you're going to be here next year, and it's going to be up to you folks. If we're not going to do it this year, I'm not going to waste my time, and we can just stop and table it. I'm disappointed, Mrs. Roby, that you can't help us get this done this year, because there's really no reason not to. I don't know what extra time it's going to do for us.
I think you're mishearing. I didn't say I wouldn't take everything into consideration, but if there are issues that come forward through the planning board, I think there needs to be time to be able to deal with them, and there may not be. They may have wonderful things to say about this proposal, because I think they've been paying attention. But if they don't, I think we owe it to the residents to take their comments seriously, and not to say, okay, they've given us an opinion like we sometimes do, but we're going to ignore it. So I guess if we have to vote on this at our very last meeting, we may have to vote on it. But if there's no reason to do it, I guess I don't see what the issue would be to let it get carried over.
Okay, any other discussion on the, go ahead.
Okay, as far as the Wilson Street, I'm fine with that for now. And as far as this new revelation, it's up, I guess it would be up to the city council president to call a special meeting, emergency meeting.
We could also have one between Christmas and New Year's, which a lot of people travel, and, I'll be here, as far as I know, but
I'll be here. I don't know, it's up to the city council president, but if we want to follow up the following week with a meeting, I don't know, on one item.
Yeah, we get our money's worth out of the president.
You're looking for overtime.
Councilor Landers.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move forward and, chance it and be disappointed if the planning board throws a monkey wrench into it. I think if we had a special meeting, I'd be afraid that those out there would say, oh, see, I told you, they're trying to rush it through. So I think if we stay with our calendar, we some of us go to the planning board meeting on what, December 2nd?
The problem is, they don't discuss things until we're back down here.
Right.
I guess we can tell from their questions,
Yeah. Well,
and whoever came up with that schedule is,
yeah.
I don't know.
I'd like to chance it. I mean, I would attend a special meeting
Okay, well-
between the holidays, but I'd rather stick to our schedule and see how it plays out with the planning board, and then have
Okay.
a chance and
We'll
take a
go and
vote
take
at our
a-
last meeting.
We'll take our chances, and it is what it is. So can everybody else weigh in, please, on the Wilson Street? Are you in favor of that, President Clancy?
Yeah, I'm fine with the Wilson Street, because I was a little uncomfortable if we went all the way up to Phelps Street. And the reason for it being is because of that parcel of land right after the old McGee Farm, because that's a very large open space parcel. My feeling is that if we want to try to develop a wayside district, we should start from the Sudbury line, go to Wilson Street, find out how it works. We also are going to have the ability to take a look at how the roadway is going to be upgraded. The roadway is going to be changed from a 4-lane to a 2-lane with drop-over lane in the middle. What wisdom that is, I don't understand, but all you have to do is try to get out of town on a morning at 8 o'clock or 7:30. I understand that what we're trying to do is trying to get traffic so that people will be going into and visiting businesses and things like that. So my feeling is that we should go from the Sudbury Town line to Wilson Street. Then the city council in the future can take a good close look at it and make a determination how to extend it. I would not want to see it go to the end of the state highway, because a lot of that end of the state highway are homes, there are houses, and not buildings where you have retail use. So would have to end probably down at the shopping plaza. But I'm not going to be around for that, so that's the
You better
wisdom.
be.
I'll be, if you want me, I'll come back and I'll have my
You
say.
didn't get what I said.
I don't think they want us to talk. I think they're just saying, hopefully, we're on the right side of the grass.
Right.
But, yeah.
Right.
They
True.
will not be inviting us to
True.
speak, I guarantee that. Council
Well,
Landis.
I had said earlier, I think I started the conversation that I think, for me, Wilson Street's a good concession. At least we get that far and see how it goes. I'm very interested, and I'll be down there supervising it, how this construction goes. I have some reservation, but I have to assume that these civil engineers know more than I do.
It's the state. They do what they want to do.
Well, I know that. The other thing is, you know, and I don't mean this as a complete knock, but sometimes in Marlborough, we have a tendency to do things 95%. You know, I still have a problem with the track behind the middle school. You know, 4 lanes rather than 6. You know, it should be...
Council, we're not
No,
here to talk about the
Well,
traffic.
I just want to cite that as an example.
Okay.
But here's an example, both the construction of Route 20 and the rezoning of Route 20. You know, we're not doing it, I think, what it should be done in 2020, both of those. And I think for the future. But here again, the concession from my part is to go as far as Wilson Street, see how it goes, see how construction goes, and see what we come up with. You know, as I told you before, Mr. Chairman, I'm a little concerned about the development on Route 20 East, because Sudbury, for the most part, has done so much, and Wayland so much. I'm not sure what type of development we're gonna have there.
We shall see.
I hope it's good.
President Clancy, what, the construction's going to start 21, 22?
Well, they're in the design process right now. It probably won't be around till 2021.
Yeah,
And it's
so-
going to go from Peters Ave all the way to the Sudbury line. And they're missing the point. The point is that the biggest point of congestion is at the Country Club corner. They should be fixing that, but they're not, because there is a separate design that would go from the Country Club corner all the way up to Palmer Square.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Jouer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All along, I wanted to shrink it down a little bit. I was going along with up to Phelps Street, but at the original meetings that we had talked about it, I wanted it at Wilson Street to stop for the very reasons everyone has mentioned this evening, so I will be supporting Wilson Street.
Great. Counselor Ussing, where are you?
No, I'm okay stopping at Wilson Street for now. I mean, that'll give us a chance to test the waters, see how it works, and if we have to make adjustments to it, we can do that.
Thank you. Counselor Irish?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm very comfortable stopping at Wilson Street. I was also considering how the construction's going to take place on Route 20, bike lanes, so forth, et cetera. So very excited about that, to see how the outcome is going to be that on a state job. And so I'd be very comfortable going to the Wilson Street.
I can assure you, when that construction starts, I will be writing a letter to the city council asking why you guys screwed up the traffic on Route 20, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Put the first claim in.
Okay, so Wilson Street it is. Other issues that we have, and thanks for Mark and Meredith being here. It has been suggested to me that we should probably take some of the parcels out. Everybody has these parcel maps. I forget the name of the neighborhood where Councilor Doucette lives, but there's really none of that's contiguous to the Route 20 East. None of it, it's all built or mostly built. So Councilor Jouer, did you have some comments that you wanted to make on that?
I did, Mr. Chairman. I received a call from a very nice lady that lives in that neighborhood, and asked me to see if we could exclude that. So I'm gonna, if you're ready for a motion to exclude some of that, I would like to make a motion to exclude Lot 74-2, Lot 74-2A, Lot 74-3, Lot 74-3A, Lot 74-4, and Lot 74-5.
And Councilor, would you like to add Lot 61-18, which is, I think, that Hager Meadows, Hago Pond development there?
Sure.
If you're looking at your maps, right where the big loop is on DeCenzo, it's right to the left.
Right.
Right to the east of that.
61-18, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, these are all established neighborhoods that whatever we do down there really isn't going to impact them.
And even if we did the change, it doesn't affect them, but
Well, that's
they
right,
seem
but
to
I
be
think-
worried about it, so why not?
As a security blanket for the residents,
Yeah.
let's, I think we should exclude those lots and, let the residents have a little bit of peace over it.
So the motion is made and seconded, and for discussion, I'd like to ask Mr. Racecott to weigh in on the advisability of doing this.
Actually, Josh Fiala and I were talking this morning about this very topic, as originally they were in because you were going to take the entirety of the B district, but since you're only taking a smaller section of it, it makes sense to leave them out.
Okay. I don't know that there are any others
I don't
that we would
believe
need
there
to
is on
take
that
out.
side.
But Mark, if you and Josh can just put your heads on that too, and just to make sure, anything really that's touching, that's kind of businessy, we wanted to include. So we'll make the motion and vote on this, but I'm certainly open to taking out other parcels where it makes sense. I'm not married to anything in this proposal, so. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Rossi?
So I'm just curious, the parcel 74-4, there are no houses on it. It's owned by the city of Marlborough. Why
That's
is,
the hill. It's that big hill.
I had asked the same question, and
Yeah. That's the one they took the hill down,
so they can take more
right
hills?
behind Target.
By Tiger.
I understand, but I understood the premise to be, we wanted to save or exclude the residential portion of DeCenzo Boulevard, which I'm good with, that's fine. But there's nothing on this particular property. If the city wanted, I assume the city's gonna keep it as open space, right? Or,
I don't know who owns it.
the city does.
City does.
So that's why would we wanna limit our opportunities, I guess? That's,
Well, that goes over to Gulbenkian Stroller Park, doesn't it?
Yeah. Goes right up to it.
Go over the top of that hill, there at Gulbenkian Stroller Park.
no, I'm just looking for the
Gulbenkian's
logic. I
is
haven't
not
heard the
included.
logic as to why you would wanna include that parcel.
Well, I don't care if we do or don't. I think it's not really like the other business, the other areas touching Route 20, but I'm completely indifferent as to what we do in that. Counselor Jouer?
And that was my thinking exactly, is we're not abutting Route 20 there. It is surrounded by residential areas, the Settlers Lane area and all that. Then Azalea Lane abuts it also. I understand there is a commercial spot at 6127, but then, and, you know, Gulbenkian's is right behind it. I just figured it was a safeguard for the residential area that's in that pocket.
Well, it's zone business now, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
So it's zone business, and so with the new zone, there's really, I don't see much disadvantage to the new zone. It's the city land. I don't see a problem one way or the other. Mr. Rassicot, any opinion on that?
Was the parcel acquired by the city for conservation purposes, or was it acquired for future public uses, or was it acquired to potentially land bank for future affordable housing
President
locations?
Clancy?
Conservation,
So the conservation acquired it
yeah.
just for conservation land. Does conservation care how it's zoned?
I'm not sure what
You
the
guys
zoning
own
is.
it, right?
I don't have the zoning map
I
here.
don't know who has care, well, it's business.
It's business.
All this yellow here is business,
I know
correct?
we have, there are trails up there. There are trails at the top of that hill.
Well,
There was
so I'm
somebody-
looking over, it looks like the trailer park is,
Right up
oh,
against.
you're right,
it.
there's El Dorado Drive.
Yeah,
Right.
No, that's not on that lot.
It's on the backside.
it's on the backside.
Backside.
And you're right, it's not on that lot, but it abuts it.
But you can't drive through there.
No.
I
No,
think so. I
no.
mean, you'd have to have some
I mean, if you
mean
want-
four-wheeler or dune buggy
No.
to get up that hill.
If it's that big of a deal, I mean, I can
Not a big
withdraw
deal either
that
way.
as part of the,
Chairman, I brought, it's not a big deal, I'm just trying to understand the logic, because the logic I understood for excluding DeCenzo Boulevard, I just didn't understand the logic of a parcel that had nothing on it, that's all.
Yeah, you know,
I'm indifferent to
you
which
raise a
way you
good
go, I
point.
mean, if it's conservation land, I'll be candid with you. We can zone it anything we want, it's
It
nothing's
doesn't
gonna
matter,
happen
yeah.
to it, it's gonna stay conservation land.
So should we take it out? What,
I say take it out.
okay. Counselor Jouer, are you willing to amend your motion?
I will amend my motion to remove 74-4.
Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded to remove parcel 74-2, 74-2A, 61-18, 73-3, 74-3A, 74-5. Is there any further discussion, Counselor Roby?
6119, is there a reason why that one's?
6119,
It's across from
6119.
6118 on the backside of DeCenzo. It looks like a little tiny corner lot with nothing on it currently.
Yeah,
by
Mark,
the
did you
zoning.
not mention that one little lot there? The 61, we've got the 6118, and then there's the DeCenzo Boulevard and 6119.
Actually, we're trying to find this on the map.
Yeah.
Put it up in the,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if you look at that, it's, you know, it's right there on the Route 20 line, no residential, you got 6131 there also that abuts it. I mean, I got no problem adding it, but I don't see
And
you know, it's the entrance to the way, but like I said, 6131 is there, 6122A, you know, these are all abutting Route 20, and I started this, I was looking at the residential that was off of Route 20.
it's just, I'm not sure there's enough land there to do anything with.
Mr. Chairman, if it's part of the association that's with the condos, then it would make sense to exclude it. If it is, however, not part of the association, and it might be able to be consolidated with 6131 and 6122A for future redevelopment, then I would suggest leaving it.
Okay, here's what I'm going to suggest. Why don't we table this subject for the month? If you want to withdraw your motion, we'll talk to the city engineer, we'll check with conservation, so we'll make sure we know who owns what.
Sure.
And we'll come back. I think we have a general idea of what we want to do. Let's take
Right.
some of the residential out that
Well, that's my
it
main
doesn't hurt
concern.
them, but we'll do that. And so we'll clean this up, but I think we get the idea. Let's take some of the ones that are obviously don't need to be in the zone, okay?
So what do you want to do
So-
now? Do you want to
so-
table the whole motion?
I would say, might as well
Withdraw it?
withdraw your motion.
And then we'll bring it up at a, okay.
Right,
Motion to withdraw the
okay. All those, motion based and seconded to withdraw, those in favor, motion is withdrawn. Okay. One of the other issues that people wanted to discuss, I think, was the height of the building. So the actual height is, let me get it in front of me. It's 52 feet, and with a special permit can be 85 feet. Okay, so it's a special permit height of 85, but it steps down to 52 feet when the building is within a 50-foot setback from a property line that abuts a residential district. So what we'd like to avoid is, you know, that big Borg-looking cube thing that shot up overnight. And we really don't want to build something huge and wreck the quality of life for somebody who's living behind there. So can we talk about that a little bit, Mark, and what the 50-foot setback really means and what that means to somebody who's kind of living in behind there? And by the way, the 85-foot got put in because property owners on Route 20 said, look, if we're going to build something, we got to be able to go higher to cover our costs and to make any money and to make anything commercially viable. So that was feedback from the constituents that we put in. And so, but I want to discuss it because it kind of worries people a little bit.
Two items on that. Number one, the current height limit in the business zone is 52 feet. And there currently is no minimum setback. So in theory, a 50-foot structure could be built immediately adjacent to the
Which
rear
happened.
line. So in this proposed district, there is a minimum rear yard setback of 25 feet. So we're already pushing buildings a little bit further back from the property line, even if they're limited to the 52 feet. And then further back from the property line if they want to go higher by special permit. So that was the rationale, was to provide additional flexibility, but not in an area that it would be close to residential neighborhoods. So,
So, Mark, is that a fairly standard amount of setback versus height in a situation like this?
well, it would be about it'd be about a 45-degree angle at the very least, because from the property line, so 50 feet back and 50 feet up. And then you assume that any residential structure would also have a setback from its property line. So this is a reasonable amount.
I assumed that it would be because that's why MAPC put it in there. But folks want to discuss that a little bit? Questions? Councilor Jouer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think before we consider even an 85-foot building under special permit, I think we have to look at what the future plans are with the fire department as far as putting a ladder truck on the east end of town. There's a disaster down there. You got an 85-foot building. I think that would make a difference. I mean, I'd like to hear which I'm not going to be here to, well, I may be if we vote.
So,
on this.
Counselor, we're not going to get any of those answers now. There's no possible way we can get those answers. But I would think the future council is going to say, before I give you a special permit, what about the fire protection? And so they may say for 5 years, we're not doing anything until we get a ladder truck. I'm sure there's no way they're going to get a special permit for a project where they couldn't get adequate coverage. I wouldn't think.
I don't think so.
And you folks feel like you're going to do that? Going to get wacky and jiggy and say, hey, you know, what the heck? I don't think that's going to happen.
I think the special permit, Counselor, takes care of that.
I can't hear you,
I think the special permit takes care of that.
So none of this,
All right,
that would not
you
be
know,
by right, so.
You know,
Right, and that's why, and I knew that when I said special
no
permit.
no
but I
ladder,
just-
no 85-foot building.
Right. I just wanted to make sure it was put on the table because You know, with the size buildings we're starting to build, I think we need adequate protection to serve the public in these buildings. And, you know, you and I have differed on the ladder truck on the east, but if we're talking buildings that size, you know, my opinion will fastly change. Thank you.
And I'm assuming it's going to be a few years before one of these comes in.
Oh, absolutely,
So,
but-
President Clancy.
Yeah, as far as the height of the building, you have to understand that once you go beyond the fifth floor, you have to go into a different type of construction. So you're looking at cement construction, fully sprinkled buildings at that height. So you might be looking at a totally different type of a building, not a wooden structure building. And those are the ones that we worry about. And I don't know if you would really like to climb an 85-foot ladder.
I have.
Well,
Did you like it?
you have more guts than me.
Okay, anybody else want to, Counselor Irish, then
Thank you, Mr.
Counselor
Chair.
Roby.
Yeah, I like the idea of 85 feet with a special permit, of course. The question I have is, I'm a fan of the boutique hotels and all that. That's wonderful. But if we're going to go to 85 feet, why would we not include larger hotels in that area? I mean, I'm a fan of the boutique hotel, believe me, but I'm just...
Yeah. You know, I
Because we
think
have-
that's kind of like art. Do we really want to have another big-size hotel down there or not? I mean, we've got a lot of hotels in town. We just approved, what, 1, 2, 3 in the last few years, and the feeling was, you know what, maybe something a little different. You know, there has been a lot, and through MEDC, we've learned that some of the big, high-end corporations are sending people all the way to Boston to have a
Absolutely.
five-star hotel experience, and if something boutique-y and really upscale could be built, they thought that would be a wonderful addition to the east side.
And I'm a fan
I
of the
think it was
boutique
only, we probably have enough hotels lately, and didn't want to see another one jammed in, but,
Right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
yeah. Oh, thank you. Counselor Roby, you were next.
Oh, I think I'm okay with making comments, thank you.
You okay with the height here?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Anybody else want to discuss the height?
Said,
Okay, we're good on the height. All right. Let's see. So there was one thing about the table of uses and, was it ancillary, Meredith, ancillary uses? Accessory uses. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. There was a question about Marlborough Nissan. In the earlier version that I think inadvertently got taken out, there was the ability for Marlborough Nissan to be able to do something across the street. I know Councilor Landers had some questions about that. And if we could walk through that, because I'm not sure we want to have a huge proliferation of car dealers. Well, I know we don't want to have a huge proliferation of car dealers, but Marlborough Nissan has been quite frankly, they've been a good business in the city. They do a lot of business, and people need to buy cars, and so that's fine. And they wanted to expand in a number of different ways, and have been frustrated by the city at each and every turn. So the idea was to have an accessory use that would pretty much not apply to most others. So, Mark, could you opine on that and how it might or might not apply to other areas?
Okay, so if folks could look at the use table, it would be the third page of the table of uses. About halfway down, we get into car parking lots, garages, gasoline filling stations, auto sales and service, etc. So, auto sales and service, interestingly, currently in the B zone is not allowed. So this is a pre-existing non-conforming use. So it was carried over as an item to be not allowed in the proposed Route 20 East. So that's the first item. When Josh and I were talking about this, we thought that if you wanted to allow for accessory use of a parking lot for this, but have it not contiguous, that it made sense to use the car parking lots, comma, garages line, which currently in the B zone is a special permit, and we were thinking of carrying it over in the R20 East as a special permit. Now, what was in a previous edition and somehow got dropped is the suggestion that that this should have a note that should read, in the Route 20 East zoning district only, car parking lots shall be defined to include an accessory car parking lot on a non-adjacent parcel, parentheses, e.g. across the street from the parcel with the primary use, close parentheses. An accessory car parking lot requires site plan and should comply with the design standards for Route 20 East. So that language does two things. Number one, it allows for an accessory parking lot that is not in the same side of the street or not immediately adjacent, but it also enables the council to have the site plan review process so that you can make sure that the design meets your goals for Route 20 East, so that it's not just a parking lot with cars right up onto the sidewalk, that there would be amenities there as well.
So Mark, that could potentially apply to other...
It could, yes. It would be a special
So
permit.
what I would want to see, or maybe suggest seeing, is something like that it applies to, that it's only available to a new car dealer. Because I don't want to have somebody who somehow started selling 5 used cars and now they're going to open a huge parking lot full of used cars. I don't want that. I don't think the council wants that. So we have to kind of talk that through. Council Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Isn't there somewhere, or did we actually take care of it? There was a request from Nissan to add another facility across from their property, which I don't believe has gone anywhere because I don't think anybody really wanted it to be allowed.
Well, the reason
So-
it didn't go anywhere is they originally were proposing something that would have applied all over the city, and the councilors and legal and everybody said,
Okay.
"Yee, no thank
So I
you."
guess my concern is there's a difference to me between a car sales lot, which is not allowed in business, as Josh said, and isn't allowed in the proposed, versus them just parking their cars for storage like they do behind their current building further down.
Well, down by
and
behind
it's-
the mobile station back
It's,
there.
it's hidden from view.
Huge. It's
To-
huge, too.
I think the complaint that I hear from a lot of people is that as they come up 85 and they see the entrance to the city car lot, it's not real appealing. Is that what we want
Well, are you
on
talking about the one at the
20?
junkyard?
No, I'm talking about all of the car dealers that are on 85 as soon as you...
85, I apologize.
85 South, sorry.
Right.
Do we want, and there is the one that's pre-existing on 20, but do we want more of them? I
So
guess
the
that's
question
not what
is-
I see 20,
Right, and we've had this discussion in the past. Route 85 was originally designated the auto area, right, the car area, and that's where they should go, and a lot of the car uses. Over time, the council has relented on occasions to allow the Valvolines and tire stores and other things. Marlborough and Nissan has been there for a long time, so do we allow them to expand or not? And can we do it in a way, honestly, I don't want a bunch of new car or used car dealers there.
but even the auto service facilities are a special permit in the business district, so we
Yes.
could deny the special permit if we
Yes.
chose to.
Yes.
Auto dealers are not allowed in the business district currently, so
Yes.
why would we
But
allow
yet, a
more
number of them are cropping up. Like the junkyard or the they're selling cars and more cars and more cars.
They shouldn't be on 20, they're not
Well,
allowed.
and yet they are. And yet they are. And sometimes with banners up and all the stuff. Meredith?
I just wanted to point out, I think originally, when we did the language, and we'd have to check with Mark and Josh, but it was a distance.
Right, I thought it was 1,000 feet or there was something.
We're trying to do it with a distance, like 1,500 feet.
And maybe, Mark, you can come up with language within a certain number of feet of a new car dealership.
Can I ask a question to Mark?
President Clancy?
Yeah, thank you. Under the table of uses, it says sales room is not allowed. When you go into a auto dealer, what do you go in and look at when you're looking at a new car? You go into the sales room, okay? Under this, it says no. No sales rooms are allowed. With that, I'm just, auto sale, maybe you could, I don't know what sales room really means. You have any idea what a sales room is, Mark?
So this, this would be separate from autos, because you have a separate line item for auto sales and service, which I think would include the auto sales room. So that would be, a sales room for, wood molding to go around, a room, or a sales room for specialty blinds or something like that.
Cabinets, blinds, carpet?
Yeah, probably carpet.
But wouldn't that be retail, though? Wouldn't those be under retail?
I think it's just a question of scale. I'll check on this. It's currently not allowed in the business district, and the idea was that it was just going to be carried over. This is something we maybe should talk with your building inspector about.
Well, he's the one that interprets this.
Yes,
And
exactly.
all of a sudden, you're going to have they want to put a sales room across the street from Marlborough Nissan, and he's going to say, no, it's not allowed. It's not an allowed use. And this is the thing that we're trying to allow.
Okay, so we'll put that on the list, and we'll think about it a little bit more. We're going to have a number of meetings on this, so that was a good pickup, Mr. President. Okay, so the car dealership, how can we accommodate a business that has been here a long time and tried every which way to do things?
Pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah, let him be.
Yeah, okay, so we'll think about that. Folks, are you open to seeing if we can come up with a solution for Marlborough Nissan?
Pre-existing non-conforming.
Okay. Council Landers?
Mr. Chairman, I don't really know if there is a solution. I myself, and, I know everybody down there, and they've done pretty well. I remember Councilor Clancy when they sold boats and Ramblers, and then they expanded.
You said
Now-
they sold goats?
Boats, B-O-A-T,
Boats.
motorboats, believe it or not.
It's a combination,
They
yeah.
repair motorboats.
Do we allow goat dealers in this zone?
Well, evidently, they went over to Lake Boone and went fishing, I don't know. I would let them do anything on their side of the street. I don't know if that lot they have in back, but what I don't want to see, quite honestly, and I don't find it attractive down on Route 9, I don't think 200 shiny cars driving into a city, I don't think is attractive. I really don't. So I have a hard time. But I know they tried to expand before. We had a lot of meetings on that, and they did a pretty good job, getting their paint shop and stuff like that. But I guess I hate to see that side of the street, basically Chinese restaurant. I don't know how if it's doing good or bad.
Well, I think that's where it's going to be.
I know that. I know that's where it's
That's
gonna
your
be.
answer.
And I'm not so sure if I want to change, switch from a Chinese restaurant or another type of restaurant that could go there for 150 shiny cars. Somewhere along the line, they're going to need a building there. Something. I don't care if it's just a shack to put number plates on it, or to take off the paper, or, stuff like that. And I really don't like the idea of them jumping across the street. And
It's
you
a
mentioned earlier today
legitimate
that,
opinion, I'm not
Yeah.
strong one way or the other. I mean, the fact is, it's the buildings that we make money on. We don't make anything on those shiny cars.
well, that's what I was gonna say.
Because they're owned by Detroit or Sweden or wherever they come from. We don't get a penny of
We
tax
don't
on
get
them. but-
excise tax, we get
Excise
nothing.
tax.
Eventually, the state, if they
Excise
sell a
tax.
car, gets sales tax.
Yeah.
But I don't see, I mean, even a restaurant that's not doing well would pay more taxes than a parking lot with 150 shiny new cars on.
Right,
We gotta
right.
consider that.
Okay, so anybody else have any input on that? Okay, we're gonna have to cogitate on that a little bit more. Let's see.
I have a question on, they have restaurants with drive-in and/or drive-through facilities. They're not allowed. We already have some down there.
Right.
They have to be pre-existing non-conforming. But if they ever go out of business, the drive-up window goes away then.
So, yeah, we should talk about that a little bit, because I noticed that and I said, let's think about that. When we did the downtown Marlborough Village zone, we didn't allow those because we collectively thought, okay, that doesn't make an area walkable. It's kind of more of an auto place. People aren't getting out and doing that. I think that's the concept here, but Mark, do you want to kind of opine generally on drive-throughs? And
That was the reason that it was excluded here, was that you were talking about trying to make this into a more walkable area, so that folks might get out of their cars and then go in and buy their coffee, and then maybe they walk over to the next store, since they're already out of their cars. I don't know how many you actually have within this smaller district. There might be a couple, but they would exist as pre-existing non-conforming, and they could stay as long as they stayed in business. But if somebody were to go out of business, then they wouldn't be able to put it back in.
See, because presently what you have is a Taco Bell there. Taco Bell sits right in front of the
Staples. there.
Staples Plaza, yeah. But there's also an open lot that in front of the Home Depot. They've been trying to get a tenant for many years, haven't been able to get anybody. But I can guarantee that if anybody ever goes in there, they'll want to put in a drive-up window, because it most likely will be a fast food type place.
There's also a Dunkin' Donuts.
There's a Dunkin' Donuts there also.
So we do have,
That's
that's a
further up.
second drive-through, yeah.
That's a second drive-through.
Has a drive-through.
The dry cleaners has a drive-through?
Drive-through, yeah.
So we have 3 drive-throughs. Councilor Jouer?
I don't think we should eliminate totally the drive-throughs. Drive-throughs that's the way business is done today. I can tell you by my own experience, several years ago when I owned my business, I was striping a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because that was their dead time. And I had to block off the drive-through, and I'll tell you what, it was like I shut the water supply off of the town. People were irritated, they sped out of there. I think of 10 cars that came in, if one got out and actually walked in, that's a lot. We live in a world of convenience today, and we're trying to attract a certain type of people, but drive-throughs are the way it is today.
So the question is, I mean, your point is very valid, Counselor. The question is, what's our vision for this area? What are we trying to build?
We want something that works, I believe, and
I know, but so does that fit in with the vision that we're trying to do here? I mean, the answer could be yes, but, I mean, people just driving through Marlborough doesn't help us very much. Stopping for a cup of coffee doesn't help us very much.
But it
Stopping
helps
and
the
going
business.
to our restaurants, going to our other businesses, and for the people that are walking, having to dodge the drive-through things because they have so many openings and closings, that's kind of the problem with the drive-through. It's going to be a small lot, they're coming and going, and that could be problematic, so.
I would like to see them under the zoning with a special permit, as we do with all drive-throughs now. And at the time, the Urban Affairs Committee, the city council can make that determination whether a drive-through fits in that thing.
So you know, there's a lot of places where drive-throughs aren't allowed.
I understand that.
City.
Well, I understand that, but we're trying to attract even, business. And if somebody's gonna want a cup of coffee and not wanna go in and get it, or a sandwich and not gonna wanna go in and get it, they're not gonna stop and go in, they're less apt to stop and go in to get the sandwich as they are to drive through a drive-through. And, pennies add up, you get your meals tax and all that, and, it's money that, well, it's just convenience.
But then, what have we turned ourselves into? I mean, is that bringing us to the next level of livability, of place that's a destination where you want to go and, hopefully hang out and go from building to building? Like you come downtown, go to one place and walk to another. So I think the thought here was, and I'm not married to anything, was maybe we don't want that, right? So yeah, we'll get a couple more fast food places, but does that really help the character of this East End? They've got 3 drive-throughs now, and the East End is still dying. It's not doing what it should be doing. I think that the road work is going to help, but, we're kind of doing more of a vision statement, trying to build some character into that area, which is now a drive-by area.
I'm just thinking, Counselor, when we did Apex, it was thought of as that type of walk-around plaza where you'd go to a restaurant, you'd go to the Apex Center, you'd go work out, you'd go back to work across. But we allowed a couple of drive-throughs in there. And drive down Route 20, which I know you do, that drive-through line for Starbucks is never empty. It's a constant flow of traffic going through there. Chick-fil-A, same. I don't know how the Friendly's does down there. It's tucked in the back. Chick-fil-A is the same thing. People today, not for the most part, but a good percentage of them, are in a rush. They don't want to sit down and have a cup of coffee. They want to put a coffee in one hand, a telephone in another hand, and somehow figure out how to put mascara on while they're driving. And I've seen it.
I understand,
so.
But in my opinion, because I did a lot of the negotiating, the drive-throughs were an accommodation because we really wanted the other stuff. We wanted the Apex Center. We wanted one hotel, we got 2 hotels. We wanted some of these nice restaurants. That's what we wanted. We gave up that because you also have to remember that that land was one of the worst lots, with the worst big lots left in Marlborough. It was covered in arsenic, ledge, and what, Mr. President, 80-foot, 85-foot drop from top to bottom?
Topography.
Weird barbell shape. It's a miracle that we were able to get that land utilized usefully.
It sure was.
So the question is, on this other side, which is very different area, do we want to start building smaller villages where people can walk and feel safe with their kids and those kind of things? Or do we just want to keep pumping out drive-throughs? I don't really want to keep doing the drive-through thing if we can avoid it, but again, what does everybody else think? Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Then Councilor Chenera.
I like the concept of the little villages, but for most people that live in Marlborough, we're going to have to drive to that little village. We're not going to walk there. And
Right.
even from what I understand, the people that live around there, it's too far. They're going to walk, they're going to get in their car and drive. So you may get in your car, drive, but now you can drive from Home Depot over to Target without getting back on 20, which is nice and does mean you don't have to fight your way out there. But people probably aren't walking from Home Depot to Target. So that's maybe a bigger distance. But even if you start adding more little stores and places to go, people are still probably not going to walk from place to place to place.
Great points, Councilor, but let's think out a little bit. Some of these areas that are underutilized are likely to have, as part of their development, some housing where people actually live there. And those people can come down and walk. And the other thing, when Josh Fiala talked, was, okay, if we can build the right things, people will come and park and then potentially circulate around.
Right, so
Could be a pipe dream, but
unless we're talking about a mini rent-the-mall where you have to park and then walk around the stores, you don't have the ability to drive. Well, I guess you can drive around the outer perimeter of it. And yes, I think the whole idea is to have the housing with the business below. But I guess your point was that you didn't see an issue with the special permit piece, and I think that's where it sounds like you really do have, and I don't know why we wouldn't want to allow a drive-through with a special permit and let the council make that determination. Yes, it's appropriate here, no, it's not appropriate there.
I can live with
Rather than to just say, no,
I can live
you
with that.
can't have
Councilor
them
Tenera,
at all.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So, not in that many words, but yes.
All right. President Clancy, and then Councilor Landers.
This probably another question going out to Mark. How would you classify a pharmacy? Is that a customer service? You know, a pharmacy.
As
Like
far
a
as having a
CVS,
drive-through.
such as a CVS, because they are all demanding drive-up windows, you know, and, you know, we already have 2 pharmacies with drive-up windows.
I would classify it as retail.
That would be retail, yeah. And see, the whole thing is that the way I look at it, you know, you have to have drive-up windows for pharmacies because of, you know, elderly people, elderly people,
You looking at me?
women with children, things like that, you know. So I think that we'd be hurting ourselves if we did not allow drive-up windows
Councilor Landers.
Yeah,
without a special permit.
Just quickly on drive-ups, you know, Council Clancy just mentioned, but I was out at Panera Bread last Sunday, and I counted the people at Starbucks. It was 13 cars. But for the most part, the older people, especially in inclement weather, use the drive-through, not only for coffee, but CBS and so forth. And then the young mothers with 2 or 3 children. It's very difficult to take 2 or 3 children into a Dunkin' Donuts to buy coffee or to go and pick up a prescription. But looking at that overall area, I'm trying to project 10 years ahead, because you know, whole plaza has risen and died twice. I mean, we had Stop and Shop there, we had a Kmart, we had a theater, we had Mammoth Mart, we had a Russell's Steakhouse. You know, it's amazing, and died, and then come back, died. And I wish I could project how many people could have potentially live there. You know, what type of housing, Mr. Chairman, that would go there, because that would kind of figure out what type of retail or what type of stores could make it there. I would not start a business there. I would not rent a store there, only because I've said 2 or 3 times, Sudbury and Wayland have surfaced. And people, I was talking tonight at my board meeting at the Chamber. For some reason or other, Mark, maybe you know this, people don't drive west. Is that true?
That might be an overly broad statement, Councilor.
Couldn't opine on that one at all, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, always
People
look
don't drive west, they're going to fall off the end of the earth. if they
No,
keep-
no, I'm just saying, when they come in, you look where McDonald's and some of these other places, you know, put their stores. Most of McDonald's and Burger King, I know this for a fact, they are always on the right-hand side coming into a city.
Okay,
Take a
so,
note of that, Mark.
so,
So I'm a little concerned about the development of that whole,
okay,
doesn't have
we're
potential.
we're on drive-throughs right now, Councilor.
Yeah, well, I mentioned my piece about drive-throughs. I think you need them to take care of the elderly and the young.
So we're agreed then, drive-through is allowed by special permit?
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
so it is. Let's see, what else do we need to go through tonight?
So I just have a quick comment.
Councilor Tenera,
I'd love to get another big red building storage area, but are they?
another what?
I'm teasing, it's a joke. big red box. So are those allowed in this? I couldn't find it in this, I'm trying to look through this thing here.
I wish these table of uses were alphabetical.
Yeah. I think it was no.
I believe we moved them to
Either gonna
limited
be no or by
industrial
special
only.
permit.
I see outdoor storage.
But I don't
For the
think
storage units,
this, I don't know that this has been updated to the code change that we made to move storage units to limited industrial.
well, that's right.
So
Well, we'll
if
have
we're
to look in
making
the-
this business, they would
I
not
think
be
we're all
allowed.
agreed that we don't want to have a big storage facility down there. I mean, we already have them down there, but we don't want to add any more.
Because it was before
We got enough.
code change.
Yeah, there's two, well, there's,
enough.
but besides that, there are 2 or 3 others anyway before that horror show got built.
Can I just ask for clarifying? There's something called restaurants with a drive-in, and then there's something called drive-through facilities. Are we allowing both of them by special permit?
I think we have to, because if, if a pharmacy goes in,
Okay, I just want to make
from what I'm
sure,
hearing, it seemed like
both of
folks
them.
wanted that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay, so storage units would not be allowed, but let's just make sure our underlying, that the table of uses reflects that.
Can I bring something up?
President Clancy.
Medical marijuana treatment facility is not allowed. And within our own zoning, we only allow them on Route 20 East, from the Sudbury Town line until, was it,
Peters Ave?
Peters Ave?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure yet.
so, and this one's saying that they can't have it there, so it's something to think about right now.
No, and I guess and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that they are using a code that's on the website that has not been updated to include any changes that were recently made, which would include the medical marijuana rezoning.
Yeah.
So the code of uses may not be up to date.
Up to date, because
Up to date, up to
So you guys
date.
will have some work next year.
There's a whole section on the website
Right.
that says these are new, these are new.
And I believe that the rehabilitation center is different than retail.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, it was a treatment facility.
Treatment centers, correct.
Although, could medical marijuana be a treatment? I don't know, I don't really know.
I think it's
they
two
didn't
different
have
things. We'll double check it.
they didn't have recreational on it.
So Mark, if you or Josh could look that over, just to make sure we're consistent on the storage units, consistent on the medical marijuana.
Okay, we can do that. And I also want to make sure that we do have the most up-to-date edition of the zoning.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Jouer.
also while we're talking on this list and so forth, I'm wondering, and you made up a very valid point, if we could get, for our next meeting, a new list in alphabetical order and up to date. That way, we're not all scrambling looking for,
A new zoning list?
yes.
Or table of uses?
Oh,
you
yeah,
mean?
table of uses. Yeah, this list here that we're working off of.
I know it can be done. Steve did one for me a year or so ago, but
Just to be clear, you want us to
table of
break,
uses,
but you want us to manipulate it so that it's,
well,
I would
probably
say-
the city clerk should manipulate
right,
it.
I don't think we should be doing
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, they've never
So-
been alphabetical.
I know, but it's better if it is.
True, but
Yeah, just,
maybe
Just
there's
not
a
that hard a
reason
thing
why
to
it's
do.
not.
Although he might screw it up beyond belief, but I'll ask the city clerk to do that for us. And we'll also make sure we get an updated list of all the parcels as well. And then we'll go from there. And does anybody object to calling this a Wayside District?
Good name.
We're going to go with that. And that goes, props to Tim Cummings. Right. Let him know. All right. Let's see.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Jouer.
While you're looking for what you're looking for, one of the biggest complaints that I've heard of the Apex Center is parking. And I think whatever we do down on that end of town, we want to make sure that there is adequate parking spaces for the parcels, the buildings that are going to go in there. Like I said, Apex is a wonderful thing. But I hear constantly, there's no parking down there.
I think
And they've
they
driven-
may have misjudged, and I think they made a mistake by putting that gym in. Quite frankly, it brings in so many people.
Yeah.
I think that was probably, if they had a do-over, they might want to do that over, but, yeah, so what we try and put in is minimums, and then a lot of these things will be special permit, and then the council can add to it. What we just don't want to do is have way too much parking, because it's bad for the environment, bad for us to be able to tax it, but we should certainly look at that. Councilor Ossing.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I did look at the online version of the table of uses, and the one that we have before us stops at data storage and telecommunications facilities. The one online now does include the self-service storage areas that Councilor Tenero was talking about, and the coffee roasteries that was recently approved by the city council. So for self-service storage areas, they're allowed by special permit in the business and commercial automotive areas. But our table, in other words, you approve this as is, it would be blank for self-service storage facility and coffee roasteries, because they're now,
Well, this won't be a business zone anymore, it'll be its own zone.
right, but they won't even identify, I mean, you won't even, what I'm saying is, this is now outdated, that you need to
Oh.
have, you have to have the last two items to line up, because it won't,
Okay.
they're not, or just say that you're gonna say you don't want them in the Wayside District and just put no.
I mean, a coffee roastery might be perfectly acceptable down there, I would think.
And they're by special permit, but
Okay.
but the point is, you just want to include that in the tables for completeness.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Roby.
are we turning this into a special zoning and the underlying?
It's going to be changed to the underlying zoning. They went back and forth for years on that, and then
So
they
it will-
decided because the changes were minor. One of the things we try and do when we do the zoning is think about the people who have to interpret the zoning. So with the overlays and underline, and they have to look at two different things, and it really gets screwed up a lot of the time. So that was the thinking, and I can have Mark or Meredith opine on that if you want.
So it will be its own zone unto itself.
Be the Wayside District.
So if we want to have, so the business district that used to be there where they could put the, by special permit, a parking or a storage structure would go away.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just making notes here. One thing about signage, Mark. So, you know, that's always been a hot button with me, probably more so than everybody who's on this council now. I know Trish Pope used to, and the mayor and a couple others used to really worry about the signage. I do too. I feel like it's an opportunity over many years, over decades, to clean up the signage. And I'm just wondering, could we do something a little bit more robust on the signage? You know, for the smaller businesses, having externally illuminated types of signs to the extent that we can, to make them as decorative as we can. You know, look at the big signage, let's say like at Price Chopper, that's pretty ugly stuff. And there's a number of them along the ways that are smaller that aren't all that nice. And I'm just wondering if we could put in something for new things being built and have proper language that would make it still great for the business owners, but just look better where we can do that.
I think that could certainly be done as part of the special permit process, so you could have those discussions. To have a look at the details of the sign bylaw with the limited amount of time that is left in the current session, I think might be a little
Yeah, I don't want to open the whole
beyond us.
sign law,
Yeah.
although I can do it now, I'm leaving, but, you know, that's a recipe to get slaughtered. Okay.
I think we
So we
probably
couldn't put
might.
in a little language to make it a little stricter in this zone, just as a little trial, that maybe, hey, you know what, 10 years from now, it looks really nice, and, you know, counselors in the future may say, hey, you know what, why don't we carry this on so that 50 years from now, the signage is much nicer than it is, because it's gross. Not only here, but most places. It's, yuck.
I certainly don't disagree that most signage is pretty bad, but
Right.
I'm a little concerned about trying to add something like that in as a significant item at this point. I can talk to Josh certainly and see if there's some language that we
There
can add.
might be a
in
line
that
or
would
two that we could put in that
Yeah.
could have some moderating force.
Okay, let me see what we
Thank
can
you.
do.
Sorry to ambush you with that. Council Roby?
Thank you. I guess I have some of your concerns about signage. I guess my concern would be how quickly we could change the except as otherwise provided signage will conform to what we currently have, unless we're talking about, and I think we've done it with special permits where we up the ante.
Yeah, I think people would definitely do it.
And everything's not going to be
It's-
special permit. There will
Right.
be a business that just wants a sign. So I guess it'll be interesting to see if they can come up with something. But if you have this, if you start out with number one, I-1, then all they have to do is meet the current code. So I'm not sure how
Right.
you're going to change that.
Well, you say except as noted, you have to stick
So I guess
to
we
the
wait to
code.
see if
And
they can come
I'm
up.
not telling people they gotta go tear down their signs. That's absolutely not what I'm saying.
Right,
I'm
I
saying
think-
somebody comes in and Cat sells Home Depot and Staples to some new, gazillionaire. Now, when you come in and redo everything, guess what? Make nicer signs.
Right, a new
You just spent
business.
$190 million to buy whatever, or whatever you're gonna do. Spend a couple bucks to make it look nice for the residents. Mark?
I think if you anticipate that some of this will be developed by special permit, you can certainly lean on folks
Oh,
as
there's no
part of that
question.
special permit
We're
process.
pretty good about that. We're pretty good about that.
Yeah.
But I think that there'll be enough other development that, excuse me, we won't have a chance to do that on everything. Sorry.
Want some water?
No, I'm good, I'm good. So anyway, if you or Josh can think of some slick way to do it without disadvantaging the current property owners, that's not what I want to do. I just want to clean it up over the next few decades.
Chairman.
Councilor Jouer.
Why couldn't we use the model that we're using at Apex for signs?
We could do that potentially. They have their own sign regulations. We have our own sign regulations right here in the Village District, Marlborough Village District, so it's not like it was an insoluble thing, and nobody is forced to change the sign that they have. That's really, really important for people to understand. New businesses, you're changing your signage, make it a little nicer, that's all. Because I don't think it costs any more. What we did with the tire store there, they had to do a nice, it came out great. With the, on Route 85, we did that accessory Auto Max, came up with a nice little sign. It doesn't cost any more, it's just, make it look nice. So if we can do that, that'd be great. Other than that, I think we probably have covered enough for tonight. Folks, you've been great. I think we've made some progress. We've got plenty of work to do, but we've got plenty of time to do it. Meredith, Mark, anything to add?
The only other thing that came up when Josh and I were reviewing the zoning is that in your table of uses, the multifamily zoning line has two footnotes, one of which reads that multifamily is defined as a single building with multiple units in it. And I know that that hasn't been the practice of how it's actually been permitted, because even the more recent things in the Southwest Industrial area, we were talking about several buildings. And it might be an opportune time to clean up that language to provide some flexibility for the council as you are reviewing permits in the future.
That would
So
make
that it's not
sense.
just a single building.
Could you folks make some suggestions?
We can do
for us?
that.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, folks, so again, thanks to Meredith Harris, Director of MEDC, Mark Rassicott from MAPC. Appreciate you coming out on a miserable night. Councilors, anything you'd like to add? Questions? If not, a motion would be in order.
Motion to table?
Motion is made and seconded to table. All those in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn is made and seconded. All those in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are adjourned at 6:51. Thank you all.
Point of correct.
Four to zero.
Oh, that's right, he left. 4-0, thank you.
You are,
Do such
I was going to ask a question. I'm sorry, I wasn't here when you discussed the very first, or the last two things that were on the agenda.
So, Counselor, the meeting's closed now, so I can talk to you about that, but
Okay, well, you tabled something that was referred back to committee,
so-
so why would you not?
we'll talk in the back room
Okay.
about that. Thank you.